Walter's Happy Hour runs Monday through Friday from 4 to 7 p.m. The $5 Happy Hour menu includes the Meatball Trio and select draft beers.
Así como existe gente que crea sin parar, existe la imparable camioneta Ford Maverick que no deja de ganar. Top pick de Consumer Reports como la mejor camioneta pequeña y camioneta compacta número 1 según Motor Trend. Pero la camioneta Ford Maverick no está aquí para presumir. Está diseñada para quienes prefieren crear con sus propias manos y para los que necesitan una camioneta que los ayude a concretar ideas. Así que eso que estás pensando hacer, llévalo, cárgalo, hazlo con Maverick.
First pitch to Bogaerts. Cracked in the air, deep left field. Back goes Lyle to the warning track at the wall, and it's gone. It's a grand slam. 4 batters in. The Padres lead 4-0.
Gore from the third base side of the rubber looks home and deals. Diaz whacks one deep to left down the line, hooking toward the foul pole. It is a line drive home run. 2-run shot for Diaz, and it's all Padres in the third inning, 8-0.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who was at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Well, the good news is that the Nats over the weekend did not get swept for a third consecutive weekend. The bad news is that the Nats over the weekend did lose yet another series. 4 consecutive series losses now. Sunday afternoon, an 8-1 loss to the San Diego Padres at Nationals Park to lose 2 out of 3 games in the series. This was a game in which the Nats allowed 5 runs in the top of the first and 8 runs over the first 3 innings. This was a game in which Nats ace MacKenzie Gore got ripped 8 runs in 2 1/3 innings. The Nats now 39-60, tied for a season worst 21 games below 500. Third worst record in the National League, and the Nats run differential now is at minus 112, second worst run differential in the NL. You can find us on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. So the Nats, of course, had 2 All-Stars this season, left fielder James Wood and starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore. It turns out that each guy over the weekend had a forgettable series in the Nats' first series since the All-Star break. And Mark, it's a funny deal. The Nats in this month of July have won 1 series. That series was against the American League leading Detroit Tigers, so go figure. But otherwise, nothing but series losses for the Nats so far this month.
And I feel like, Al, we've seen this exact same scenario play out a lot, really over the last 2 months, where they find a way to win one of the first 2 games of the series. They've been swept a couple times, and obviously they had that 11-game losing streak. But most of the time, they've won one of the first 2 and then given them a chance to go into a rubber game of a series, and, hey, maybe you can pull it off. Well, they did it against the Tigers, of all teams, and won that series. They have not done it against anyone else. And it's not like these rubber games have been close. A lot of them have been very much like this one, blowout losses where you didn't even really have a chance. And the irony in this case is, if ever there was the rubber game of a 3-game series that you felt pretty good going into, it was this one with your ace on the mound. Now, yeah, you were facing Nick Pivetta, who beat MacKenzie Gore 1-0 last month in San Diego. But you had to at least think this was going to be a close, competitive, low-scoring game. And instead, 4 batters in, you felt like it was over already. And I know a lot can happen after that, but if you've been watching this team, 4 batters in, it felt like this one was over.
It was stunning to see Gore be as bad as he was, as early in the game as he was. You know, Gore was arguably the best pitcher in the All-Star game, a perfect top of the 5th on 9 pitches. He was a model of pitch efficiency in that All-Star game. So he had to be feeling good going into this outing, you would think. And instead, he got wrecked. 8 runs in 2 1/3 innings. He gave up 8 hits, which were 2 home runs, 3 doubles and 3 singles. He issued 3 walks. He recorded 2 strikeouts. He threw 75 pitches, 46 strikes, 29 balls. And Gore had this nightmare of a top of the first, during which he allowed 5 runs on a homer, 2 doubles, a single, and 2 walks, and threw 37 pitches. And the homer was a grand slam, a first pitch grand slam by Xander Bogaerts to left field for a 4-0 Padres lead. Was there any conversation during the game or after the game whether Gore might have been tipping his pitches? That was something that crossed my mind, just because He was so bad. He was so ineffective. The Padres were so all over him. And when you see something like a first pitch grand slam by Bogaerts, as if he knew what was coming, I said to myself, I wonder, could it be that Gore is tipping his pitches? Did that come up at all?
I was wondering it myself. It wasn't vocalized. It wasn't something that we asked MacKenzie specifically about. And truthfully, players are never going to concede that because they don't want, even if it's true, even if they want to use that as an excuse, they don't want the public, or more specifically other teams, knowing that, because maybe the other 29 teams in the league had no reason to think that there was something to look for. And maybe the Padres did figure something out. So they certainly weren't going to say it. It's a natural conclusion to come to when you see how good he was last time against them, and just overall this season, how good he's been versus how much they were on him. Now, the couple things, and this is what he really talked about more, what happened in that inning. He issues 2 walks. So his command is not on there from the beginning. And what Bogaerts did is he ambushed a first pitch fastball. And both Gore and Riley Adams did say that it seems like teams are being more aggressive against him, knowing how good he is with 2 strikes. He's, one of the top strikeout pitchers in baseball. And sometimes the approach against those types is to say, go after the first pitch. So maybe it's not necessarily a pitch tipping situation, but a predictable first pitch fastball kind of situation, and hitters looking for that right away, knowing that might be my best chance to make decent contact against this guy. Don't wait for it. Don't wait to get to deep in the count, because it's only going to get worse, your chances, the further along you get in that at bat. So maybe that's more it than anything, that they're looking for first pitch fastballs, and he gave them one, and boy, you saw the result.
We did, and you mentioned the strikeouts. The strikeouts have slowed down. He, for the longest while, was number 1 by miles in MLB in strikeout rate, was number 1 in total strikeouts, and he's no longer the king of the K in this season in MLB. And you look at just his 3 outings in this month of July, 11 strikeouts in 13 2/3 innings. That's not horrible, but by his standards, that's not what he had been doing earlier this season. He has been so good this season, and he has been so consistent this season, and he has been especially effective even when his stuff hasn't been at his best. We multiple times have said, well, his stuff wasn't great, but he figured out a way to have a halfway decent outing. To see a blow-up start like this really was kind of jarring. And again, coming out of an All-Star game performance that was really impressive, and coming off a pre-All-Star break portion of the season that was so impressive.
This was his worst start in exactly 1 year. The only other time in the last 2 seasons that he didn't complete at least 3 innings, coincidentally, was July 20th, 2024 against the Reds. It was a similar thing. He threw 48 pitches in the first inning and didn't even get out of the second. Maybe there's something about July 20th, moon landing anniversary. The stars, the heavens don't align for MacKenzie Gore. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's the striking part of it. This kind of came out of nowhere. As far as the strikeouts go, you're right, they're down, but I think that may speak to this adjustment, perhaps, that teams are taking, which is to say, don't let him get to 2 strikes. With his breaking stuff, with his good fastball and a changeup, you're going to be helpless in that situation. Your best bet is to try to get him early in the count. And so I think that could be leading to that diminished strikeout total. Now, we know baseball's a game of adjustments. It goes on. It's not just when you're a rookie. This goes on year to year throughout your career. If teams are starting to come up with a game plan or a different game plan to face MacKenzie Gore, it's up to him and the catching team and the pitching coaches and everybody else to come up with some kind of adjustment to that. And so I'll be interested to see next time out and beyond, maybe there are fewer first pitch fastballs. Maybe you try to get ahead with something soft, get yourself back into 2 strike counts again when we know how good he can be there.
Hey, it's Al Galdi for Window Nation. The humidity is rather thick. You've got the AC running on blast, the fans on, and the shades closed, but the heat still seems to be seeping into your home. That is, until you replace your old, drafty windows with energy-efficient, top-quality windows from Window Nation. And right now, you can get 50% off all window styles plus 0 interest for 5 years. You heard that right. With Window Nation, you won't pay any interest until 2030. Call 866-90NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Also, Know this, Window Nation will get the job done in a day or less. Window Nation's installation crews have over a decade of experience, so you can feel comfortable knowing that your windows are installed right the first time. Don't procrastinate another day. Save yourself another month of living in discomfort. Don't miss Window Nation's biggest deal of the year, 50% off all window styles now through July 31st. And remember, that comes with zero interest until 2030. 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. That's 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. And tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
Así como existe gente que crea sin parar, existe la imparable camioneta Ford Maverick que no deja de ganar. Top pick de Consumer Reports como la mejor camioneta pequeña y camioneta compacta número 1 según Motor Trend. Pero la camioneta Ford Maverick no está aquí para presumir. Está diseñada para quienes prefieren crear con sus propias manos y para los que necesitan una camioneta que los ayude a concretar ideas. Así que eso que estás pensando hacer, llévalo, cárgalo, hazlo con Maverick.
The McDonald's Snack Wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch Snack Wrap. Spicy Snack Wrap. You broke the internet. For a snack. Snack Wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
The 0-1. Young grounds one back to the pitcher. Jacob has it, jogs toward first, underhand toss to Arise, and the game is over. Padres win it 8-1. They take the series 2-1. A 5-run first with a big grand slam for Xander Bogaerts, and the Nationals could not catch up. San Diego pulls within 4 games of the first-place Dodgers in the National League West.
So we had MacKenzie Gore having a rough outing on Sunday afternoon, and we had James Wood overall having a really rough series. Now, we did have a hit on Sunday afternoon. He has an starting DH, and number 2 batter went 1 for 4 with a single, but that ends up being Wood's only hit in the series. The 7-2 loss to the Padres on Friday evening. Wood as the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter 0 for 3 with a walk, a stolen base, and 3 strikeouts. The 4-2 win over the Padres on Saturday night. Wood as the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter 0 for 4 with a strikeout. I think we can officially say that he's in a slump, and you're almost reluctant to say that because he's so good. And the last time that he was in a slump, he then busted out of that slump in big-time fashion. But James Wood for this month of July now has an OPS of 632. He's not having a good month so far.
It got to 0 for 20 before that hit. So, yes, you go 0 for 20. I don't care who you are. That is a slump, and that's the longest of his career. He had an 0 for 15 last year, and that was it. So, yes, this is the first time really that we've seen him over a sustained stretch. And it's not just the results. You can go 0 for something and have a lot of hard contact, as we know he's capable of that. You're not seeing that here. You're seeing the strikeouts. You're seeing swings that don't look as confident. You're seeing ground balls, which has not been his case normally. So there is something different. Now, I know, and I heard it from plenty of people, and it's natural to ask this question. And so I did ask James Wood this question. Did the home run derby affect his swing in any way? Now, the slump goes prior to the All-Star break, but as people have noted, and you know, we talked about it at the time, he actually was practicing a couple of times during that final week leading up to the All-Star break, did a couple practice rounds of a home run derby, and the slump might coincide roughly with when he started doing that. I asked him, and he said, no, I've never bought into any of that kind of stuff. This is just baseball. He gave a good line. James Wood, not one to give a great quote necessarily. He said, it's not always going to be rainbows and sunshine. So I appreciated that he said that. He is human after all. If he snaps out of it here soon, it'll be a footnote, no big deal. But really, for the first time since he reached the big leagues, we're having this conversation because he has not come close to looking like this over a stretch of, more than 2 or 3 games. We're now at the hitless streak was 5+ games, and really that longer stretch for most of the month that he's not been the same hitter, it starts to grow, and he'd say, okay, this is legit. This is something he's now having to fight his way out of.
There have been studies done on whether participation in the home run derby wrecks a swing. And the truth is this. Yes, there are guys who post the home run derby have slumped. There are many who have not. And so the idea that participating in the derby automatically means that you're ruined for the rest of the season, that's not true. That has never been true. And I think it's just something that people like to talk about. The Nats are in trouble if MacKenzie Gore and James Wood are not good. I'm not breaking news in saying that, but that was one of the things that I really thought was illustrated in this series, and especially on Sunday. If Gore starts to falter, if Wood cools off considerably, then what the rest of this season, especially considering that we are anticipating a significant sell-off here come that July 31st trade deadline?
Yeah. Now, do I think that both those guys are going to slump for the entire second half? No. I don't. I could see MacKenzie Gore taking a step back. Now, you hope it's nothing like what we saw last year when it was about a 5-6 week stretch, I think, that it got pretty ugly and then he finished strong. And what he's done so well to date this year has been to avoid those kind of outings. Now, this was the first one. So his next start, which should come on the road in Minnesota, I believe, that's a big one for him. It's important to put this one behind you and get right back on track and make everyone forget about it and say, okay, nothing wrong here, nothing to see here. So I'll be very interested how he comes into that next one and performs. And in James Wood's case, he gets to play every day, so that helps him a lot. Now, he also DH'd in this game for the first time under Miguel Cairo as interim manager. And I think that was a concession of, yeah, he's not playing as well here lately. Let's give him a chance just to focus on his bat. Don't think about the field, any of that stuff. He got the hit. Maybe that's a little bit of something for him, but I want to see how he looks here against the Reds the next few days. And we know with him, it doesn't take much to get going again. And I feel like deep down, this guy is way too talented, works way too hard, and has such a good approach at the plate that it's hard to believe this would last for any real length of time. We talked about he's going to strike out. That's part of his game. But we know he's got a good eye. We know when he makes contact, it's hit really hard. I would be stunned if this lasts for a really prolonged stretch. Everyone's going to go through it at some point, even James Wood. My guess is before too long, we're talking about him being back on track again.
His OPS now is down below 900 at 895. The Nats offense in this 8-1 loss to the Padres on Sunday afternoon, not good. The Nats offense in this series, not good. The Nats over the 3 games total just 7 runs, but specific to Sunday, 1 run, 6 hits, 2 walks, 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position. The 6 hits, a home run, a double, and 4 singles. As yes, former Nats prospect, current Padres starting pitcher Nick Pivetta again did quite well against the Nats. 1 run in 6 innings. We mentioned what went down with James Wood offensively in this game. There really wasn't much to the Nats offensive output in this game. Riley Adams did homer. That was good to see. He is the Nats starting catcher and number 8 batter, 1 for 3 with a solo homer and a walk. The Nats had a 1-run 5th, during which Adams had a 2-out opposite field solo homer to right center to cut the Nats deficit to 8-1. But otherwise, this was another one of these feeble offensive performances by the Nats.
And against a pitcher who did this to them a month ago in that game against MacKenzie Gore. Gore was so good in that series finale at Petco Park, and Nick Pivetta was better than him with 7 scoreless and won the game 1-0. And if you thought there would be an adjustment on the Nats' part against Nick Pivetta, well, you were wrong, because this looked just like that one. Very little patience, very little loud contact. The hits they did have for the most part were singles until Riley Adams finally homered. That was the first run they had scored off Pivetta in 12 innings against him this year. And I think at that point they'd only drawn 1 walk off him as well. So that's really disappointing. I understand Nick Pivetta's having a breakthrough season. This is a former Nats prospect, as we know, traded for Jonathan Papelbon. He's been, all over the place since then, mostly in Boston, now in San Diego. He's having his best career year, so you give him credit for that. But the way that he has thoroughly dominated the Nationals now in 2 head-to-head starts, and the fact that he would do it again in the second start, I don't like to see that. I don't think anybody should like to see that. You would love to see some kind of adjustment there that says they had a better game plan or did something different against him this time around. It felt like just a continuation of what he did out in San Diego last month.
C.J. Abrams as the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter, 0 for 4. Nathaniel Lowe as the Nats starting first baseman and cleanup batter, 0 for 4 with a strikeout. Alex Call got the start in right field. He is the Nats number 5 batter, 0 for 3 with a walk. Dalen Lyle got the start in left field with James Wood DHing. Lyle as the Nats number 7 batter, 0 for 4 with a strikeout. Again, just not a lot happening with this team offensively. Actually, the biggest bright spot in this game, and the biggest bright spot as the series went on was the Nats bullpen, which really, save for one player in one game, had a good series. Kyle Finnegan was a mess in the 7-2 loss to the Padres on Friday evening, but as we noted, he was quite good in the 4-2 win over the Padres on Saturday night. And the Nats bullpen, with the exception of Finnegan on Friday evening, was good. The Nats bullpen on Saturday night was good. 3 Nats relievers combined for 3 scoreless innings. And then in this game on Sunday afternoon, 3 Nats relievers combined for 6 2/3 scoreless innings. Jackson Rutledge, hats off to him. 3 2/3 scoreless innings, 3 swinging strikeouts. Andre Lara, 2 scoreless innings, and Cole Henry, a scoreless top of the 9th. This game was never really close because the Nats offense did not do much and Gore struggled as he did, but the bullpen actually gave the Nats an opportunity to make this game competitive.
Yeah, so look, let's be clear. This was garbage time as soon as Gore was out of the game. So I don't know that the Padres hitters were putting forth quite the same intensity the rest of this game against the bullpen as they might have otherwise in a close affair. Now, having said that, these are really important games, as it turns out, because it saves the bullpen, certainly for Monday. And to me, the real question is what happens on Tuesday. When Brad Lord is making his first start back in the rotation, you know he's limited and how far he can go. Did all that work from Rutledge and Lara on Sunday help allow for more to be available out of the bullpen on Lord's Day? Now, the problem is Rutledge and Lara are probably both unavailable even for 2 days. So I don't know who your long man is if Brad Lord only goes 3-4 innings, which is what I would imagine is what he's going to top out at. So we'll see if they feel the need to do anything else, make another move, or if they just say, all the other guys who maybe aren't long men and aren't multi-inning relievers, we're just going to throw a bunch of them in that game. Jake Irvin, you hope, gives you at least 6, if not more than that, on Monday. Let's see what happens Tuesday with Brad Lord. And I imagine one way or another, we're going to look back on this game as having impacted how Tuesday's game might go, for better or for worse.
Hey Nats fans, after the exciting Nats game, have a listen to some relaxing solo piano music to unwind and help you go to sleep. I'm Tim Newmark, the composer of the Nats Chat theme song, and you can find my latest music on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, and anywhere you stream music. The song you're hearing now is called Improv in A-flat major, The End of the Road.
Así como existe gente que crea sin parar, existe la imparable camioneta Ford Maverick que no deja de ganar. Top pick de Consumer Reports como la mejor camioneta pequeña y camioneta compacta número 1 según Motor Trend. Pero la camioneta Ford Maverick no está aquí para presumir. Está diseñada para quienes prefieren crear con sus propias manos y para los que necesitan una camioneta que los ayude a concretar ideas. Así que eso que estás pensando hacer, llévalo, cárgalo, hazlo con Maverick.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking ball hammered towards center field. Thompson's going back. He's on the warning track to the fence. It's gone! Yo-Yo Morales chucks the bat away, and the Red Wings win the ball game on Yo-Yo Morales' 3-run walk-off homer to the right of dead center field.
So the Nats next up have this 3-game series against the Cincinnati Reds at Nationals Park. As mentioned by Mark there, Brad Lord is starting Game 2 Tuesday evening, 6:45. Game 1 Monday evening, 6:45. Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. And then Game 3 is a Wednesday afternoon game, 12:05. Michael Soroka will be the Nats starting pitcher. I want to ask you about Yohandy Morales, who is killing it right now for AAA Rochester. Had another big game on Sunday. His slash line for this month of July, batting average 321, on base percentage 394, slugging percentage 625. Do you think we'll be seeing Morales at the major league level at some point this season?
I think there's a chance. I think it mostly has to do with the trade deadline and what Mike DiBartolo does there. You got to believe Josh Bell's going to be traded if anybody makes any kind of halfway reasonable offer for him. So at minimum, there's a DH spot to fill. And the real question is, does Nathaniel Lowe go as well as a guy who does have another year of club control? If they were to make both of those moves, then I don't know how you could proceed without calling up Yo-Yo Morales, because who else do you have now to play first base and or DH? So what I've been told, the coaching staff there really likes him. He's worked hard. He's putting together good offensive numbers. He's still learning first base. He was originally a third baseman, and Brady House's presence kind of pushed him to the other side of the diamond. So he is still learning the position, but what I've been told is everyone's been pretty impressed with the way he's gone about that. Now, is he truly big league ready? Maybe not. Remember, he was drafted the same year as Dylan Cruz, a second-round pick. He's not in the same class as those top prospects, but he did come out of a big program at Miami. He's always had the ability to hit, mostly for power. We've started to see that come around more so here in the minor leagues. I would think if he keeps it up, and if the Nats at least trade one of Bell or Lowe, certainly if they trade both of them, he would be a very logical candidate to come up and make his major league debut and probably get a decent amount of playing time in August and September, depending on how that goes. Is he part of the long-term plan? I don't know. I'm not sure anybody really knows yet. But as we look ahead to what's going to be the rest of this season, and there are only so many things to get excited about, and most of the top prospects are already here. Again, he's not quite in that same category, but he would be somebody interesting to watch, I think, who could play his way into a more substantial role as they look ahead.
It'd be nice to see someone tear it up at AAA, earn that promotion to the majors, and give you something to feel good about here as this season winds down for the Nats. 2+ months left, so he could get ample playing time were he to be promoted post the trade deadline, which is only about 10 days away. As Mark mentioned, the Nats took Morales second round of the 2023 MLB draft out of the University of Miami. The one thing you don't like is that he's so young, and yet he's already at first base, right? Like, there's not a lot of defensive value in a spot like that, and the fact that he's not even playing third base with any kind of regularity anymore would suggest that in the majors, first base / DH, right? I mean, we're not looking at anything beyond that, it would seem.
Right. I think a lot of it had to do with Brady House's development. They played together at a couple levels of the minors, and they know Brady is supposed to be the long-term answer at third. So if you know there's not going to be an opening there, might as well start to get him comfortable at first base. And I get it. I know that that's sort of the last resort always defensively, and you want to stay at another position as long as you can. I think we've also learned over the years, a good defensive first baseman has a lot of value. And yeah, the traditional path is to take somebody who's already an established big leaguer at another position and move him there, as you saw with Ryan Zimmerman. But I don't think it's the end of the world to groom someone from a young age to be a first baseman, if they're good at it. Yes, you want them to have a good bat as well, but if they're good at it, particularly scooping up throws, they have decent range there, I'm not opposed to that idea. And I don't know if that's necessarily what they're thinking here with Morales, but to me, I don't think that's the end of the world. We've seen since Zim retired, they've gone through a bunch of different guys and haven't settled on anyone long-term at that position, which is an important position. Maybe he can be the guy, and it doesn't have to be a case where you bring in somebody from the outside or it's a converted outfielder, corner infielder, whatever it may be. Maybe it's somebody who actually was getting first base experience in the minors and becomes decent at that position.
You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website you can check out as well, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. Also, you on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify can both rate the podcast and write reviews. 5-star ratings are very much appreciated. Positive reviews are very much appreciated. These things help us out a lot, so thank you very much for doing them. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
In the pinch, Morales swings and hits one in the air to right. Hernandez back, reaches up, and he can't get it. Yo-Yo on the go with an RBI double. And welcome to Fredericksburg, Mr. Morales.
Así como existe gente que crea sin parar, existe la imparable camioneta Ford Maverick que no deja de ganar. Top pick de Consumer Reports como la mejor camioneta pequeña y camioneta compacta número 1 según Motor Trend. Pero la camioneta Ford Maverick no está aquí para presumir. Está diseñada para quienes prefieren crear con sus propias manos y para los que necesitan una camioneta que los ayude a concretar ideas. Así que eso que estás pensando hacer, llévalo, cárgalo, hazlo con Maverick.